Welcome, everybody, to episode 18 of the Off the Wall Hockey Show. Another week of NHL action has passed, and we certainly have plenty to talk about as the NHL playoffs draw nearer and nearer here as the season goes along. I am joined, per usual, by the great Steele from Steel Flyers this week as well. Steele, thank you so much again for being here and co-hosting the show. And are you ready for another episode of the Off the Wall Hockey Show?
Are you kidding me, man? I would not miss this for all the cheese in the world. Are you kidding me? Come on. We're talking about hockey. We're talking about coming down to the wire. Oh, do you like that? Do you like that?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what. It's getting really exciting. Teams are starting to jockey for position, and it's starting to get juicy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we will be going into our top stories here. But first, we want to remind everyone that this is a hockey show for hockey fans, part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, as you can see. And NHL getting down to the final few weeks here as teams are pretty much all under 10 games remaining, except for Vancouver, but that's a different situation. We don't have a lot of time left. A lot of teams are clinching playoff spots. A lot of teams are being eliminated from playoff contention. We still have some very tight battles going on for fourth place spots in a lot of these divisions. So It's going to be a real fun end of the season, but we're going to talk about the biggest stories in the NHL this week before we get into all of our regular segments, looking at the teams, records, players, stuff like that. So top story, Steele, if you want to start us off, what do we got here this week?
Okay, we actually have a very diverse list this week for the first time in forever, I think. Since we've been doing the show, we've pretty much seen eye to eye on exactly the top stories of the week, but I think this week is going to be really awesome because every single one of our stories are different this week. So my top story is this. It is official. The Seattle Kraken have now made it they've made their final expansion fee payment, and it's now official, and they can start to do business with the NHL.
Yes, as of today, they are the 32nd team in the National Hockey League. Officially, they can sign free agents. Yep. They can make trades. They can do any sort of roster thing. They are officially a team now. Yep. And while we knew that this was coming, it wasn't until the final payment of the expansion fee was made that it officially became official that the Seattle Kraken were a team, and they now are. So obviously that's huge news for the NHL as they expand to 32 teams. They finally even out the conferences, which is nice. Well, there's no conferences this year, but for next year they've evened out the conferences.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see. I mean, I love everything about Seattle so far. I can't wait to see what team they've got that they're going to get as far as roster goes. I'm super excited to see them come in and play next year. And this was the last step in them becoming an official team. And they now join the NFL as the only other major sports league with over 30 teams, as the NBA and MLB are still at 30. Although I figure there could be expansion there in the near future, but
we'll see on how that's going to go.
NHL catches the NFL with 32 teams, and that's big as they add another team into the fold here.
Exactly. It seems like they follow wherever the NHL teams are. They put the NFL teams are. They put a NHL franchise there. Now, this is not the first time that Seattle's actually had a hockey team there. They've had a hockey team quite a few years ago where they were able to have a hockey team there as well. But here's the thing: $650 million. Was their final payment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, man, can I get on the other end of that checkbook?
That would be nice.
Right? $650 million. Oh, who do I write that out to?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing this show in my basement, that's for sure.
Right. we would be doing your number one story. If we had that kind of money, we'd be doing your number one story.
Oh, okay? Yeah, for sure.
First, let me say this about Seattle real quick. I'm going to be very interested to see what's going to happen up there, especially with Ron Francis up there running the show. He's a rebuild type of guy. He's a guy that builds from the draft and all that other stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things are going to fly, because Vegas built for a win now type of philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm thinking that what's going to end up happening is that Seattle is just going to stockpile draft picks for the next year or two.
Ooh.
I mean, depending on how or what they're going to do. I mean, it's all going to depend, number one, on the team that they're going to get in the expansion draft.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So based off of what they get in the expansion draft and then what they do subsequently after that. You know what I mean? But they are now viable to do things, and they had to do that, I think, by this point in time so that they could have the expansion draft and all that other stuff. So
yeah, for sure. It's funny, during the Vegas Colorado game Wednesday night, we were talking in the chat during the stream a lot about how Vegas has been so successful right out of the gate, and how they came out and went to the finals in their first season, which was completely unheard of in any pro sport, and how they've continued that success and they've made the playoffs every single season. And we were talking about the chances of Seattle being able to do the same thing, or whether it was going to be more difficult. And the general consensus is that when Vegas came into the league, management of other teams had no idea how to handle an expansion draft. They had never been through it before. They didn't know the right way to which players to give up, which players to protect. And the general consensus in the chat was that Seattle is going to have a tougher time getting as good of players, because general managers are going to know how to handle this process better than they did the first time when they had never done it before. And I don't think Seattle's going to come out with the same level of team that Vegas did.
Which is why I think that having Francis up there and having him stockpile draft picks and all that other stuff is going to be the way to go for them. But it's all going to depend on what's going to happen here in the expansion draft. I agree now that the current regime of ownerships and management in the NHL has now gone through an expansion draft. You know what I mean? And so now everybody's all up to speed. But you know what? In the end, I still think it's going to be that particular issue where it's not going to matter. You're only going to be able to protect so many players.
Yeah.
That's just how it's going to have to be. And, oh, well.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some really good players available. And Seattle will be a competitive team, but I don't think they're going to be the level of team that Vegas was right out of the gate, because I don't think that they're getting a Marc-Andre Fleury. I don't think that they're getting a high-level young defenseman like Shea Theodore, who's turned into a Norris candidate now, since Anaheim gave him away. So we said, please take Shea Theodore, and he's turned into a Norris candidate, and now Anaheim's dropped to the bottom of the West Division. It's like, I don't think those same kinds of mistakes are going to be made this second time around, or not as much, and I think it's going to be harder for Seattle this time than it was for Vegas, given the fact that these general managers have a little bit more experience and know what they're doing a little bit more when it comes to this.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%, which is why I was like, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I think it's going to be a major factor in how this team moves forward and how competitive they're going to be in the next season and onward. You know what I mean? So
I think they should stockpile a lot of picks.
Which is what I think is going to end up
first round
happening.
Picks if you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And trade away whatever assets they're able to snag in the expansion draft. That's just going to give them more fodder.
Mm-hmm.
Because other teams are going to want those players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, okay, whatever. All right, cool. But that's why I said, if we were on the other end of that checkbook, $650 million, we would be doing your top story.
Yeah, TV deal. The NHL has announced, this happened early in the week, so it's kind of been known now, but still, since the last time we've done a show, the NHL's announced who the second television broadcasting partner in the United States is, and it is Turner Sports, which I think kind of came out of left field. It was not on many people's radar as far as who the television partner was going to be. There was a lot of talk about NBC coming back. Then if NBC didn't get it, Fox was the one who was supposed to get it if NBC didn't. And out of nowhere, here comes Turner Sports, who's a division of Warner Entertainment, who is in total owned by AT&T, who is the parent company of all of these. I'm not going to get too deep into the business side of things, because when you look at telecommunications and just media in the United States, it all filters back to like the same 6 companies or 7 companies. They all,
or whatever,
all these like subdivisions of companies all filter back to the same big ones that own everything.
right.
So the business side of thing doesn't mean a whole lot. NHL, basically, for you guys that want to watch on TV, it's going to be on TNT next year, which has the NBA already, and they have shows like Inside the NBA to go along with it. And they have actually, from what I've heard, I don't watch really any basketball, but I've heard that that TNT does a very good job.
Yeah,
with the
they
NBA.
do. They do. They really do. They do a really good job. That's where I believe the Charles Barkley is on that.
Yep.
Okay, and so yeah, they do a really good job as far as their NBA coverage. They've been doing it now for quite a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Over there now, okay? So they know what they're doing. Here's what my biggest question is this, is that what is going on with NBC, and why are they suddenly getting out of all of sports altogether?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it seems like the Olympics is going to basically be their last hurrah. Because after the NHL, then the Olympics, and that's going to be it. They're not going to. There's no more NBC sports, other than if they're still going to carry the Notre Dame games on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with NBC, but we heard earlier that they planned on shutting down NBCSN, so the whole sports network was going to be gone. Then if they were still doing sports games, they were going to be moved to USA Network, and it seemed like they were just trying to cut costs and downsize already. But now they have dropped out of the NHL altogether, which was their biggest main, pro sport. They still have Sunday Night Football. Yeah, they still have Sunday Night Football. I don't know when their deal with Notre Dame is up, but they have a deal with Notre Dame to exclusively show Notre Dame sports. And they have the second half of the NASCAR season, but that's about it as far as like major U.S. sports. Oh, they have golf too. They don't have. Oh, they have some bigger tournaments.
Are they still doing? I wonder if they're still doing the soccer.
Oh yeah, they have Premier League too. They have.
They do. Okay, then never mind. Okay,
yeah, they're still like in sports, but the NHL was like their big U.S. sport.
Yeah.
They don't have the NBA. They don't have MLB. They only get one NFL game a week.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were like now, losing the NHL for NBC. That's a big cut out of their sports coverage.
Right, and 2 years ago they were covering Formula One as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they've seriously said sports, not so much.
Yeah, they're cutting back on sports, and I don't know if they're just being straight up outbid for these contracts, or if they are wanting to pull out of these sports.
Well, I would be interested to hear what the deal is for Turner Sports.
$225 million per season.
Okay, so I think that was the same money that NBC was.
NBC was 3-something, I think, or high twos, maybe just under $300 million per season. But NBC got everything, the whole season, whereas Turner just paid $225 for like half the package.
Well, yeah, because ESPN and all that got the other half.
Yes, and when you combine them, what Turner and ESPN is going to be paying starting next year is almost double what NBC and the little $100 million that ESPN gave for ESPN to be able to use ESPN Plus to broadcast a bunch of out-of-market games. The NHL is basically almost doubling their television income from TV deals. It was like 360 something million between NBC and the little bit that for ESPN Plus, and then what they're going to next year with the 225 from Turner and the ESPN deal, which was over 400. It's like over 600. It's like 650 million per season. I was just gonna say, between the two. So they're almost doubling their television income with these two deals rather than just the one with NBC.
Well, isn't that rather interesting? And now there's going to be another market
Great for the
with
league.
with Seattle. Now there's going to be another market with Seattle too,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
right?
They're
And
bringing
that's
in.
another AHL team that comes in. And here's the thing: I want to know what Turner is going to do with. I mean, what kind of talent are they going to bring in?
Yeah, they're gonna have to hire from scratch because they have nobody hockey related. The last time Turner broadcast hockey was the Atlanta Flames back in the late 70s.
So, like I said, I'm going to wonder
Yeah.
who's going to be. Are they going to pick up the people that are from NBC? Because now suddenly Boucher and all them guys are now
Yeah.
suddenly going to be without a gig.
Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna
Not
be
that I'm really all upset about that, to be honest with you, but
it's gonna be interesting. I would imagine that there's a lot of people that are gonna be going for these jobs because ESPN's gonna have to hire more hockey people too.
exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So,
hockey jobs in the media market now that these, especially ex-players, I think are going to be going for.
well, that's going to be an interesting situation.
Yeah.
So,
I
either way,
think Patrick Sharp will get hired by somebody because I think he's been fantastic since coming on to NBC.
yeah, I
He's
agree.
been one of my favorite of
I
the
agree.
new guys that have come in. Sharp's been unbelievably good.
I agree. I agree. I actually do. I like Kevin Weeks too.
Yeah, Kevin Weeks does a decent job. Yes.
Yeah, I like him too. Rupper, he's all right. But I'm not, it's tough for me to listen to some of these folks because it just is. I take everything with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's one thing if you're an ex-player, okay? So they have a different perspective on the game. Okay, if
Mhm.
you've never played the game, you have a completely different perspective on somebody else who has.
Yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
so I don't care who you are, what kind of reporter you are, I don't care how good you are. If you're talking to a guy who's played the game, they're going to have a completely different perspective than what you do. That's just how it is because
Oh
they've
yeah,
played the game. They know what it's like to lace up those skates
and be
and be
out
out
there.
there on the
Yeah.
ice and get hit with the puck and feel that slap shot and whatever. You know what I mean? If you're just back there reporting it, you've never laced them up. You don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
but hey,
gonna be interesting to see who these station or networks now pick up to, are the NBC guys just gonna move to other channels, or are they gonna is there gonna be a new crop of media guys coming in for the
hey
NHL?
Turner, hey Turner, hey, I know you're listening, right? You see this guy sitting over here next to me, right? You want somebody to call games? This is your guy right here, okay? John is the man. You need somebody calling games? Call this guy. What? Do
Maybe
it.
maybe they'll find the channel and be like, whoa.
Hey, we need to get these guys on, man. Hey.
Yeah.
No,
But
we're allowed to dream, right?
yeah, very unrealistic, but would
Well,
be really really cool for sure. But
we're making our own. We're
that
making our own.
we are making our own. That's why we're here.
That's right. That's right. So,
So
all right. What about your let's go with your second top story on your list here. What's your second top story on your list?
we've got a bunch more teams that have clinched playoff spots. So
Yes.
over the past week, there's been I think I have 7 listed here that have now clinched playoff spots. So last week we knew that Colorado and Vegas were in. They clinched by last Friday. We talked about that on last week's show. Since then, Minnesota, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Florida, Toronto, Pittsburgh, and Washington have all clinched playoff spots now. So we're really it's starting to take shape who's going to be playing in the postseason, who isn't. Obviously, we still have some awesome battles going on for 4th spots. But like in the Central, that's the only, you have battle for seeding, but as far as getting into the playoffs, it's down to just the 4th spot between Nashville, Dallas, and somewhat Chicago, although I think it's like one more loss and Chicago's pretty much done. So it's really between Nashville and Dallas for the 4th spot, but Tampa, Carolina, and Florida are all in. Top 3 teams in the West are all in. Colorado, Vegas, and now Minnesota. Blues look like they're going to get in the 4th spot in the West, but Arizona's not technically eliminated yet. Toronto is the only team that's technically clinched from the North, which I find interesting. that neither Winnipeg nor Edmonton are also locked in, which means they could still potentially drop out, even though they're probably not going to.
Yeah.
And then in the East, Pittsburgh and Washington, who are clearly the top two teams, have locked themselves in, while the Bruins, Rangers, and Islanders fight for 3-4 and who's going to get left out at number 5. So there's still some good races, but we've got a lot more teams that have clinched now, and the playoff picture is starting to take shape.
I agree with you 100% because last week when we talked, we were sure that we were going to probably start to see some more teams topple as far as clinching playoff berths. You know what I mean? And Carolina's was delayed a little bit, and Florida's was delayed a little bit because of particular games that they might have won or lost. You know what I mean? And so I'll tell you what, though. Here's the thing that's making this even more exciting. Is that there's still battling for seeding, and there's still races for that 4th seed, especially in the West.
Yeah.
Okay? That has just become the focal point because everybody is looking at that and going, well, hey, St. Louis is sure playing pretty darn well. Right? And they're beating the teams that are ahead of them.
Yep.
So that's only boding well for them. And the teams that are below them are losing and not playing as well.
Yeah. Arizona.
We're not saying anything. Arizona.
Yeah, I actually think the West is pretty locked up. I think the Blues are in.
Yeah.
With the way that they've been playing and the lead that they now have over the Coyotes with the games in hand, and the way Arizona, I think, is 2-8 in their last 10 or something like that. Let me scroll down here to cold teams because they're
like this.
definitely on the list. Yeah,
one team is on one list and one team is on the other.
Yeah, so I think Arizona with those 2 losses to the Sharks pretty much ended their season, and St. Louis is playing really, really well right now. So
exactly, and they have games in hand too.
Yeah. So to me, the biggest race is in the Central Division for that 4th spot between
I agree.
Dallas and Nashville. 2 points apart. Dallas only has 1 game in hand now because they lost last night to the Lightning. And get this, they play each other tomorrow. Dallas and Nashville. I just did a video on that yesterday, and
there you go.
That is the race that I am watching for a 4th spot. I think we're starting to get an idea of who's getting in the other divisions.
Yes.
For the Central, to me, for that one's still up for grabs. That's a straight up coin flip between Nashville and Dallas, and it's going to be really, really fun to see how that shakes out. But I'm super excited for these races.
And I even like how Carolina and Tampa Bay and Florida are jockeying. One week Carolina's ahead, the next week Florida's ahead, the next week, you know what I mean? It's
there's a big race at the top there.
Exactly.
And Pittsburgh and Washington are doing the same thing in the East, where like they're flipping like every other game they're flipping. Who's 1, who's 2.
I don't even have to say anything, man. I just say one thing, you say the next thing. Hey.
Yeah. So there's still some great action going on, and we are getting close. I mean, I can't believe it's May tomorrow, but you know what's really cool about it being May tomorrow is that we will be in the month when the playoffs will begin.
How about that?
We are that close to playoff hockey, and that has got me like on the edge of my seat already, and we're not even there yet. I cannot wait.
You know, last year at this time, we were still waiting for hockey.
Yeah.
Right?
April, May of last year, there was nothing.
We went 142 days from the time they shut down March 19th or 16th or whatever, or 12th or whenever the NHL shut down sometime early March, right?
Yeah.
It was 142 days, and then that's when the bubble started and the seeding and the jockeying, quote-unquote, playoffs began.
Yeah, last year at this time, my channel had about 1,300 subscribers, and I was doing anything I could just to keep this channel alive and keep this channel going because there was nothing hockey-wise.
Well.
And now a year later, we are over 4,300 No, I'm over 44 now, aren't I?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm
you
over
are.
4,400
Yes, you are.
subscribers now. And we had an incredible playoffs in the summer last year.
It was
And
amazing.
we're headed into what's going to be another incredible playoffs this year.
Exactly.
I am really, really excited for.
So how's this for you? All right. So last year at this time, okay, I was just starting to put together my ideas for shows and stuff like that. Okay.
Yep.
I had joined Twitter a year ago this month.
Yep.
Okay. And set up all my YouTube and all that stuff. Not quite I think July will be a year for that stuff.
Yep.
Okay. So I haven't even been doing the YouTube thing for a year yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The website went live in August.
Yep.
Or the end of August, I think, or something like that. So the website isn't even have been up that long.
Yep.
Okay. And with everything between all of the gang at Flyers Nitty Gritty, all of the gang with what I've been putting together, all the people that I have put together, you, everybody else, and everything with Flyers Nitty Gritty, 2.5 million hits.
That's
in
nuts.
less than a year. In 8 months.
It's crazy how much can happen in a year and how much things can change.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And you know what? It's all because of all the great people that watch our stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't be here if nobody was watching, that's for sure.
Whew.
There'd just be no way to sustain it at all.
Man, I'm telling you. So thank you all very much for watching.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Shout out to everyone in the chat. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
You guys are the reason this happens.
That's right, because you guys hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we're like, hey, these guys
we
like
can
this
do
show.
This.
Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, if I was still at 1,300 subscribers, I don't think I'd be doing this right now.
No, you know what? That's I never thought of it like that, but that's right. When we first started hooking up, man, you were like just at 1.9 or something like that. Wow. All right, so my second biggest story, we went way down that rabbit hole. Sorry about that, folks. But no, I like the what's going on here with the playoffs. We're very excited about that. It can't get any better. And the best part is that we're not even at the playoffs yet, and we get 2 months of that.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome for sure.
So we still get 2 weeks of regular season, then we get 2 months of still playoff hockey with a Stanley Cup dangled in there.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Pick me. Whatever. All right. Cool. My second biggest story is the injured players starting to come back now, where there were some concerns with some folks in Colorado and in Washington missing some time.
Yep.
Especially guys like Ovechkin. He missed his third game the other night now, but he's expected to return in the next game or two.
Hopefully. That's huge.
Right, along with Carlson.
He missed last game. I didn't even realize Carlson was hurt until he missed last game.
Right, so they both missed the game last night.
Yep.
Okay, but they're both expected to be back either this weekend or within the next game or two.
Oh, well, they definitely need those two.
Yeah. Okay. So that's helpful for them, and especially the ones for Colorado with getting Grubauer and Rantanen back. Those are two players that are going to be.
Yeah, they've been on the COVID list, and Grubauer's missed a lot of time. Colorado has not been the same without him. Rantanen's missed a little while now. He needs to get back here ASAP. Yeah, Colorado's been struggling without them. I think they're losing streaks up to 4 now, I think.
Something like that.
With that loss to Vegas on Wednesday, I think that was either 3 or 4 in a row losses. That might have been 3, but either way, they've lost some games in a row now, and Vegas is pulling away in first place. So,
yeah, in fact, you might actually see a huge surprise on my next segment. I'm not trying to hint or anything. I'm just trying to, build some tension for the top shelf power rankings. You might see a bit of a surprise for you on there.
Oh, we'll have to see we'll have to wait and see that.
Yeah, but it's good to see these guys back because Colorado's definitely going to need Grubauer back and definitely going to need Rantanen back. They haven't been the same team without both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Getting Ovechkin back, that goes without saying. Getting Karlsson back as well, too, that also goes without saying. Both of those two players on Washington are huge, crushing players that need to be on the team. Same thing with Grubauer and Rantanen. They're huge, major players that need to be on the team that have helped the team get to where they are. So I just think that seeing them guys coming back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's huge.
Right. And then one that I didn't even get to put on the list here is I know it's 2 weeks away, but we're looking at Stamkos and Kucherov coming back
yep.
from Tampa Bay at the start of the playoffs. So those are another two set of injured, quote unquote, injured players that are going to be coming back too. So we're getting the guys back, man. It's looking good.
Late in the season, that's what you want. You want to be getting healthy, not getting more guys out of the lineup come the end of the season and into the playoffs. And again, these are like, especially, Colorado, they need Grubauer. That team is not going anywhere without Philip Grubauer in net. Dubnik's not cutting it. If you guys saw my stream Wednesday with Perlo for the Colorado game, we were watching that game like, what is Dubnyk doing half the time? Like, he is not cutting it in net. They're not going anywhere without Grubauer. Rantanen's been one of their best players all year. Yeah. Washington isn't going anywhere without Ovechkin or Karlsson in the playoffs. I mean, those are your probably most important forward and most important defenseman. So you're not going anywhere in the postseason without them. And then Tampa Bay, who again kind of have had points this year where you're kind of watching them and you're not overly impressed. Well, don't forget, they've got the best right wing in hockey in Nikita Kucherov out for the entire regular season. And Steven Stamkos has been out for the last few weeks. And those two should be able to come back come playoff time. So they're going to be getting a massive boost into their lineup when the playoffs come around. So those are huge heading into the postseason.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's ones that I didn't even mention because they're still 2 weeks away. You know what I mean? Whereas Grubauer and Ovechkin and Karlsson are much closer to coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to be able to make an impact on their teams coming back now, helping Colorado fight for that position and helping Washington fight for those points. You know what I mean? So that's why I thought it would be a good idea to mention that with those guys coming back and some of those players coming back for those key teams.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be huge and definitely something to watch down the stretch here as we get closer to playoff time, and these big teams that are going to the playoffs that need to have their best players in the lineup, are starting to get some of their best players back into the lineup.
It all goes back to the name of the show, Down to the Wire.
Yeah, we are down to the wire here.
But Colorado and Washington are both coming down to the wire, and they're getting players healthy instead of getting players hurt. Okay.
Cross our fingers, hopefully, for the rest of the season.
But that's good, though, to have these guys coming back
at
this time now. You know what I mean?
Definitely lineup boost for sure.
For sure, man.
All right, so now number 3 top story. What do you got for your third top story here as we're looking ahead to tomorrow, it looks like, and there are a lot of games.
Speaking of a lot of games, thank you for that beautiful segue, by the way. It's like you read the notes.
Yeah, it's almost like I have notes in front of me for the show.
Oh, no, we don't know, and we don't have notes. But I have to say that for the first time in a very long time, we have every single team playing a game tomorrow.
Except the Winnipeg Jets.
What?
There's 31 teams. Every team can't play. There's an odd number. Winnipeg doesn't play tomorrow. They're the only team.
I thought it was... Okay.
No, it's an odd number of teams. Everybody can't play.
Well, darn it. Okay, well, for the most part...
Yes, there are 15 games in the NHL tomorrow. 30 out of the 31 teams play.
Okay.
But Winnipeg is the only team that does not. I went searching in the list of games tomorrow to figure out who the one team wasn't, and I knew it had to be from the North Division because they're the only division with an odd number of teams, which means obviously somebody is left out, and it was the Winnipeg Jets.
You're so right, because I'm looking at the list of games right now, and they're completely not on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Montreal plays Ottawa, I think.
Yep.
Tampa plays, or not Tampa, Toronto plays Vancouver, and then you have the Battle of Alberta between Edmonton and Calgary. That leaves Winnipeg without a dance partner for tomorrow night.
All right, well, 99% of the teams are playing tomorrow, okay?
30 out of 31. It's going to be a huge day, and there's some huge games, too.
And we're going to get into that. But that's what I wanted to point out, though, that for the first time in a while, you're getting almost every team playing a game tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there were any days earlier in the season where literally there were 15 games.
There were at the beginning of the season.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's not very often that you get literally 15 games, 30 out of the 31 teams playing. A lot of times there's like 12. Saturday's always a big day. There's like 10 games or 12 games. Occasionally you get 14, but it's very rarely that it's literally everyone that can possibly play is playing.
I think for the most part, within the first 2 weeks of the season, there was a couple of nights where that was the case and Dallas was the only team that wasn't playing.
Oh yeah, when they were out early in the year.
Right.
Yep.
And everybody else was playing games.
Yep.
And that was the only time I think that was the case. But I do believe there was time during the early part of the year where there were every team playing, with the exception of Dallas, obviously, because they were on the COVID list.
Yeah. So it's going to be a huge day in the NHL tomorrow, that's for sure. And
wow.
I'll be working most of the day, but when I get home, I'll definitely be checking in and seeing how things went with the afternoon games and checking out some of the nighttime games and see how they're going, because it's going to be a huge day with some massive matchups in the NHL, to say the least.
And some serious playoff jockeying position, you know what I mean? Just all that kind of stuff is going to be going on here. You know what I mean? It's major. It's just
you've got the Rangers against the Islanders. That's a huge game. You've got St. Louis, Minnesota. You've got Florida and Chicago. I think if Chicago loses that game, I think they might be knocked out. Depending, because someone's got to win the Nashville-Dallas game. That might be the biggest game of the night, because that might literally end up deciding who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't between the Stars and the Predators. So that's a huge game. Vegas and Arizona play, and that's huge. I mean, the Coyotes are getting pushed to the brink here. Obviously, Battle of Alberta between Edmonton and Calgary is massive. So not only are there a lot of games.
Yeah, but you also got all the other teams, with the exception of Winnipeg in the North, that are fighting for playoff positions. Ottawa's playing Montreal, Vancouver's playing Toronto, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So
it's going to be a massive day for sure, and really excited to see how those games turn out.
It's going to make for an interesting day as far as our matchup selections.
Yeah, we'll be getting to that later, and we have a lot of games to call. It's definitely going to be the Ultra Lightning round for sure.
Ultra Lightning round.
Yeah.
All right, man, I'll tell you what. So we got every team playing, and then not only do we, well, with the exception of Winnipeg,
yeah.
But for the most part, every team is playing, and every single game, for the most part, I mean, with the exception of some of the teams, means something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Most of those games mean quite a bit.
I mean, even though Colorado's playing San Jose, they need those points. Even though Toronto's playing Vancouver, they need those points. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though Carolina is playing Columbus Blue Jackets, they need those points.
Yeah, Carolina, Tampa, and Florida are all trying to win the division, so every game for them matters because they got to try and come in first, and every point is going to matter in that race. And then you have the teams that are trying to get into the playoffs, like Calgary and Dallas and Nashville and Montreal. You have the Coyotes playing, the Blues playing. Like almost all of those games mean something. for at least one of the teams, if not both.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by that.
Yep.
Is that for the most part, if it doesn't mean something for like the Boston Buffalo game, that doesn't really mean anything to Buffalo.
No, but it does
means
to the
a lot
Bruins.
to Boston.
The only
right?
junk game that I really see there, there's a couple. New Jersey and Philadelphia.
That's a junk game.
That's a junk game between two non-playoff teams.
Yep.
And LA versus Anaheim. That's a junk game between two non-playoff teams. But other than that, I think every single matchup means something for at least one of the teams playing, and a lot of them mean something for both of the teams.
I gotta be honest with you. I think I do agree, but there's teams that are, Tampa Bay and the Detroit.
Well, that's big for the Lightning. They've lost to Detroit multiple times this season.
Oh, right. The Islanders versus the Rangers.
That's a huge game.
Right.
That is massive.
And actually, the Boston-Buffalo game has a lot of implications as well, too, because if Boston loses...
Yeah, that'd be a really bad loss.
That's right. That would be a bad loss, and especially if
the New
York Rangers were to win and the Islanders were to lose. I mean, look, I selected the Islanders to win the division in the East, and that's just probably not going to happen.
No, it's. I think at this point it's between Pittsburgh and Washington.
And I was sitting here talking about it a little earlier today, and I'm like, you know what? We all sat back and said, yeah, we don't see Pittsburgh.
I'm done doing that.
We don't see Pittsburgh doing anything, man, because, their defense is really suspect and young. Their entire coaching staff, with the exception of the head coach, including the general manager, were all fired and replaced, on the team. And, oh, by the way, the goaltending, it was... So you got Tristan Jarry and DeSmith.
Casey DeSmith, and it wasn't good to start the year either. They both. Jarry had a really bad start.
Well, okay, right.
But he's playing so much better now.
Fast forward a little bit, a couple of months, and the best goalie tandem in the month of March was the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, I've said this before. I'm done trying to guess the demise of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
They've been without Malkin for
close to
half of the season.
It's got to be close to 2 months now without Malkin.
At least that.
It's at least 6 weeks now without Malkin.
At least that's what I mean. At least that, right? And how long were they missing Kapanen?
They missed Kapanen, I think, for a good month.
Exactly, and they've missed other players as well too during that time. Their defense
doesn't phase them. Their defense was absolutely crippled at the beginning of the season. They were down to playing Kevin Suzman and stuff, and guys that don't belong anywhere near NHL ice, and they just kept on rolling and kept on plugging along. That team's unbelievable how it doesn't seem to matter what happens, they are always successful. At least in the regular season.
As a person, as a fan of the team from the other side of the state, I just have one question. When does Sidney Crosby retire?
Yeah.
Right? How soon is he going to retire? Because I'm here to tell you, as long as he's still playing in Pittsburgh, they always got a chance.
Yep.
And it appears that you can't pick against him either, because as soon as you do, they explode and win the division.
Yeah. And I would say Crosby's probably got at least another 5 years left. So,
well, let's hope that he does have some time left. I would like to see him continue to play. But I'll tell you what, man, he's taken a lot of abuse, and he's had a lot of headshots and a lot of concussions, and so
yes, but not recently.
Agreed.
That was big around 2010, 2011, 2012, but recently he's kept himself out of harm's way, and I think that is going to be able to extend his career, because there was a point in the early 2010s when we were like, is Crosby gonna have to retire like Bobby Orr early, and end up being out of the league way sooner at 30 years old or something? And luckily, over the past few years, he's done a very good job of keeping himself healthy for the most part and out of harm's way. I think he can play at this level another 4 to 5 years for sure.
Well, thank you for that great piece of wonderful positive thoughts and great vibes and all that. Crosby playing for another 5 more years, boy. I'll tell you, sign me up for that. Thanks.
Yeah, probably not the best thing for Flyers fans to hear, but he's still. I mean, was it now 16 straight point per game seasons? I think every year that he's been in the league has been a point per game season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So I mean, got to give credit to where credit's due. He's one of those type of players. So
yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So, all right, man. So what is and this is our final.
Yes.
Top story of the week. And John, this is your third top story of the week. Yeah. All right, man. Who is it? What's going on?
Just a quick one to wrap up top stories here is that longtime NHL goaltender Ryan Miller announced this week that this will be his final NHL season. He'll be retiring at the end of the year. He currently plays for the Anaheim Ducks. Also played for the Vancouver Canucks, short, brief time with the St. Louis Blues, and is best known for his years and years and years with the Buffalo Sabres, where he was their franchise goaltender through basically the second half of the 2000s and the first half of the 2010s, and was an incredibly good goaltender for them. He played at least parts of 18 seasons in the NHL. He won the Vezina Trophy with Buffalo back in 2010. He won the silver medal in the Olympics as well with Team USA back in 2010. You remember that incredible gold medal game against Canada. That, of course, Sidney Crosby for Team Canada scored the game-winning goal in overtime of the gold medal game to take gold for Canada. USA won silver that year. Ryan Miller was their starting goaltender. He played absolutely phenomenal in that Olympics, in that tournament. He had an incredible career. Obviously, he, at the end, played on some pretty tough teams in Buffalo that weren't that great. And now playing for the Anaheim Ducks as their backup goaltender at the tender age of 40, is on a team that is not that great. However, in his early years in Buffalo, he played on some very, very good teams, including that 2006 team and 2007 team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. And obviously was a Vezina Trophy winner in 2010 and put together a phenomenal NHL career. I believe he is the winningest American goaltender of all time.
Wow.
He has the most wins among U.S.-born goaltenders in NHL history. So,
wow.
And obviously, tremendous career, and definitely a huge congratulations to him. Hope he enjoys retirement and is successful in whatever he decides to do after playing in the NHL, but this will be his final season, which, again, not a big surprise. We knew that this was coming, but it was officially announced this week.
Man, I'll tell you what, I remember Ryan Miller being Miller Time would say on the back of his helmet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I'm here to tell you, this guy was a Flyer killer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the Flyers had fits against him, especially when he was playing with Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he played with Buffalo, I just remember many playoff series against Buffalo where Ryan Miller was stealing games. Okay, yep. So heck of a goalie. Heck of a player. Glad to see that he's going out the way he wants to go out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And gosh, man, to be a goalie and play that long in the league, okay, and being able to have those experiences that he's had with the Vezina Trophy in 2010. Not a lot of goalies can walk away from the game with that trophy, okay, and that have played that long. Yeah. Not a lot of goalies play this long.
No, 18 years in the league is a very long time for anybody. You're a really good and valuable player when you last that long in the NHL.
That says something about your skill and talent.
Yep.
It's funny. We were talking to a Philadelphia Flyers goalie from back in the day, Tommy Soderstrom, on our Hockey Writers Inc. show a couple of weeks ago, and he made a comment to me that I didn't really pay attention to too much at that point in time, but it really makes a lot of sense when you think about it now. And the comment that he made was this. He said goalies back then, like Miller, like Hasek, like, goalies like that, had more talent than what he felt the goalies have now. He said goalies now are better coached.
Mm-hmm.
And he said goalies now, the guys are more athletic and they're way taller.
Yep.
Right? So when they go down in the butterfly, they look like they're still standing in net.
Yeah, and they take up the whole net. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So he said that goalies today play the angles better because they're coached better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But he said that he felt that the goalies back in the day had more talent. And you know what? When you look at guys like Ryan Miller and like Henrik Lundqvist,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys have straight talent.
Oh, yeah. They're incredibly talented goaltenders and incredibly good at what they do, and that's why they lasted so long in the NHL.
Exactly. Miller was not. You don't play this many seasons in the NHL if you're horrible.
No, God, no. No, how many goaltenders have we seen come in, have a good couple of years, and then be just forgotten and gone within the next 2 years?
That list is
enormous.
So long. Yeah.
Yeah. The list of goaltenders that have played 18 seasons is much, much shorter than the list of guys that have been in and out of the league within 3 to 5 years.
I'll put it to you like this. The goalies that have played that many number of seasons are goalies that are when TV was still black and white.
Yeah.
Because you just don't see goalies playing that number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You just don't. I mean, even the really, like, I'm trying to think of a goalie that has, some of the best goalies. Hasek, he played for quite a while.
Yeah, he played a long time.
Patrick Waugh played
for
a
long time.
18, 19 years. You know what I mean? We're talking about Hall of Fame goalies. I would think Ryan Miller would be considered a Hall of Fame goalie.
That's an I never even thought. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Vezina trophy.
He does have a Vezina trophy.
Right now, he obviously, because he played for Buffalo, he ain't gonna get no cup.
Well, it's funny that he went to the conference finals twice.
Exactly.
But he never got a cup. I wonder how much that hurts him.
He's going to have the save percentage and the numbers and, that kind of stuff. But he's got 18 years, man. How many goalies have played 18 years that have won a Vezina and a silver medal?
Yeah, he's got 390 career wins.
Wow.
So
that's
he's
going to be up there with Brodeur and... What's Brodeur's like 490 something or...
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know that there are guys over 400. If he got over 400, I think that would be another big check mark towards Hall of Fame.
Okay.
390 is a lot though, and I believe that's the most wins for an American-born goaltender, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, for American-born.
Yeah, and he has a .264 goals against average in his career and a .914 save percentage.
That's still pretty. That's I don't know, man. I have to tell you,
he's gonna be one of those that I think is kind of on the line.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting.
It is gonna be interesting to see if he ever gets in or not. Definitely not gonna be in right away, but it will be interesting to see if he ever gets in.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I look at certain players like that, and I go that he was a generational type of goalie. He was one of those goalies that was a hybrid.
I mean, Brodeur won 691 games. Patrick Waugh won 551.
Right.
So he's not even close to those levels. However, he is 14th all time, and he has won one more game than Dominik Hasek.
Okay.
Although Hasek, Hasek started less games. He didn't play as many games.
Okay.
He started about 60 less games.
Okay.
and there's only one less win. Although Mike Vernon's right there at 385. He's a pretty well-known.
Okay.
Miller. It's going to be interesting if Miller gets in or not. He's not gonna reach 400 wins. There are 13 goaltenders that have won 400 games plus in their NHL career. I think, Brodeur, Waugh, Luongo, Hall of Fame. Fleury was going to be in the Hall of Fame. Ed Belfour, Hall of Fame. Lundqvist will be in the Hall of Fame. Curtis Joseph has got to be in. He won 454 games. Is
he going in this year?
I don't know. He's got to get in. How do you win that many games and not get in? I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's anyone ahead of him who's not a Hall of Famer with more wins. I don't know. Miller's going to be interesting because he doesn't have a cup and he doesn't have like that playoff pedigree that some of the great all-time great goaltenders have. But at the same time,
he does have a Vezina.
He does have a Vezina, and he does have almost 400 career wins. And there are some very good goaltenders that did not get to 400 career wins. So it's going to be interesting to see if he gets in the Hall of Fame or not.
I agree. But hey, man, you know what? Congratulations, Ryan Miller, on a great career. It's great that you get to go out the way you want to. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys don't get that opportunity. So congratulations on a wonderful 18-year career. We did kind of make the case for your Hall of Fame or not. I mean, come on. He's been a pretty darn good goalie, over the years. So congratulations to him, and thank you very much for your time in the NHL. And we'll probably be seeing this guy at some point down the road now that there's going to be a lot of jobs open now.
Yeah, for sure. So congratulations to Ryan Miller on a tremendous career, and wishing him all the best going forward for sure. And that is going to bring us now to the end of Top Stories. After this, we'll get into our regular segments, starting with Top Shelf, our power rankings that we do each and every week. That is going to be a lot of fun per usual.
Shocker for you on that one.
But before that, we will give you a word from our sponsor, Canine Country Club Resorts. We want to give a huge thank you to Canine Country Club Resorts for all of their support here at Steel Flyers and for sponsoring not only this show, but everything at Steel Flyers and all of our work. And it is very, very, very much appreciated. So without further ado, here is a message from the sponsor, Canine Country Club Resorts.
Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyers stands behind this company 100%. Taking care of Steel Flyers' furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full-service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
And we are back from commercial break, everybody, and it is time to get into our regular show segments here, starting with one of our absolute favorites, Top Shelf, our power rankings that we do each and every week. And this is going to be a fun one, looking at the lists here. I think Steele has a big surprise for everybody that I'm still trying to wrap my head around a little bit. But let's get into it here. Top 5 teams in the NHL right now, starting at number 5. Steele, who do you got?
All right. So this is why with this list this week, based off of who I had on here last week, there's going to be a particular team that's not on my list this week. That's the big shocker.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. My number 5 team on the power rankings is the Washington Capitals. They clinched the other night. I believe that they have been playing very, very well. They've been doing all the right things. They've missed a little bit there because of Ovechkin, and now with Carlson and Ovechkin missing his 3rd game, but
they're still getting points.
Yep. Okay, and still doing damage. So I have Washington at number 5. They were not on my list last week, but they make it to the list this week at number 5.
Yeah, Washington is my number 5 team as well. They're 32-13-5 on the season. They're in a big battle right now with the Pittsburgh Penguins for first in the division. And honestly, it was a complete coin flip for me as far as whether I should put Washington at 5 or Pittsburgh at 5. But I put Washington there because I think that the Capitals are a slightly all-around better team.
Yes.
I just...
Than Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared of Washington more in the playoffs than I am of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I agree.
So I would probably have Pittsburgh right at 6 or like 5.5. But
see, that's
Washington edged them out for me because again,
right.
If I was going into a playoff series, who would I be more afraid of? It'd be the Washington Capitals.
I think Capitals have better goaltending than Pittsburgh does. Even though it's Samsonov and Vanacek, I still like them better than I like Jarry and DeSmith.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, Washington's just like a scarier, more physical, bigger team that I would not want to have to face in the first round, as opposed to a Penguins team that I honestly think that they're going to be the team getting pushed around in the playoff series rather than them doing the pushing around. Whereas Washington, you're not going to push them around physically. So
agreed.
I slightly have Washington above the Penguins right now.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, man. So we both have Washington Capitals at number 5.
Yes.
So number 4 for me this week
Mm-hmm.
is a slight elevation from where they were last week. They were at number 5 last week for me. They moved up to number 4. We're talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll tell you what, this Tampa Bay team, just as time goes on, they continue to do the things they need to do. The fact that they're still missing Stamkos and the fact that they are still putting, I think, a Vezina winning goaltender out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have Tampa Bay here at number 4, moving up one slot from last week.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be talking about Tampa Bay as well a little later. My number 4 team is actually a team that has dropped fairly significantly, a decent amount here this week, and it's the Colorado Avalanche. Yeah, Colorado, this losing streak here, obviously they've been without Grubauer for a while. That's definitely catching up to them. Rantanen's missed the last few games, so they're not at full strength right now, to say the least. But they haven't looked great, and they've lost a few games in a row now. And
yeah,
that's enough. You know, when things are this tight at the top of the league, you lose 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row, and you drop pretty significantly as far as the league standings go. And for me, Colorado's definitely taken a hit. Something's not right there. I mean, I think we know what's not right is the fact that these guys are out of the lineup, but they're going to need to get healthy if they're going to go deep into the playoffs like everybody expects them to. And they're certainly going to need Philip Grubauer back because they do not have another option in net that should be even in a playoff game. So Grubauer is the big one I think that they really need to get back, and you'll see them starting to get back into the win column. But with these recent losses, I've got Colorado down at number 4 for me.
See, now you are way more generous than I was. Because I don't have Colorado on my list this week.
Yeah, they've been bad recently.
Oh, that's the shocker right there, folks. I do not have Colorado on my list this week. I have Washington at number 5. I have Tampa Bay Lightning at number 4.
Yep.
You have Colorado at number 4.
Yep.
My number 3 team in the power rankings, top shelf power rankings this week is the Florida Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
I had them ranked number 4 last week, and I have them moving up because they were also part of the group of teams that clinched this week.
Yep.
And so when you look at their record and you look at what they're doing, I just really like what Florida's doing. I think they have that team, and I've really been liking how that team has come together and how well they've played. I like what Quenneville's doing there with Florida. I like that even though Bob hasn't been the best goalie on the team, Drager has stepped up.
Yep.
And Bob has done enough. You know what I mean? So I had to put Florida there at number 3 for my power rankings just because they are still one of the teams to beat out there in the Central.
Yeah, I don't have Florida on my list, and they were one of the hardest teams to knock off. But at the same time, I have 2 teams from the Central on here, and I couldn't put all 3 because I didn't have enough room. So Florida was one that I knocked off because my number 3 team is the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay.
34-14-2 on the year, and they're winning again after a couple weeks of really kind of bland and subpar hockey.
Yeah.
All of a sudden Tampa Bay's back winning again, and they've ripped off a few in a row now, and they are playing well, and they're starting to feel like the Tampa Bay Lightning should feel. And
Yes.
Again, it's funny we talk about we talk about points this season where Tampa Bay's kind of not been that good and been kind of disappointing, and it's like Well, their disappointing is like normal for most of the other teams in the league because they're still 34, 14, and 4 or 2 on the season. So the fact that they've played really poorly at times and still have a record like that shows how good of a team the Tampa Bay Lightning are.
I was just going to say, how disappointing is that? Gee,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
not really
I'd be pretty pumped if my team had a 34, 14, and 2 record.
Yeah, I would kill for that record too. Yeah, thank you very kindly.
Absolutely. So I had to keep Tampa on. Again, I think on paper their roster is probably the best in the league. And obviously they're missing some guys right now with Stammer out and with Kucherov hasn't played all season. For them to still be this good is incredible. And, Vasi and Net look probably going to win the Vezina this year. I think it's either him or Fleury, and we'll see which way the voting goes. I mean, they've got the best defenseman in the league in Victor Hedman. They're still incredibly talented and deep up front, even with guys out of the lineup. So Tampa is at number 3 for me, and they are back to their winning ways.
Yeah, and that's why I had them on the list as well too, because I think I do also agree as well. I think Vasilevsky is a Vezina candidate.
Yeah,
I think he's the front runner, if you ask me.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
Fleury's been really good. But
Fleury's been really good, and I think Grubauer, because he's dropped off because he's missed
time.
Right. So that's why I would put Vasilevsky in there as the Vezina. So I'm with you on that for your list at number 3. Last week you had them at number 4 for Tampa Bay. So
All right.
Okay,
so
I'm with you. Yeah. All right. So
number 2.
That brings us down to the top 2 teams, and both of our top 2 teams are the same but different.
Ooh, I know what that means.
Yes, you do know what that means. Okay, so my number 2 team is the Vegas Golden Knights. This team has just picked up the ball that Colorado has dropped.
Yep.
And exploded. Let's put it that way. Yeah. The Vegas Golden Knights have definitely exploded over the last couple of, maybe 2 weeks or so. Ever since Colorado had that COVID kick, Vegas has just been like, all right, well, Colorado's here, so you can just step away.
They've won 10
Vegas
in a row.
is just going to step right in. I know. And Vegas is just going to step right in. So I have Vegas at number 2 on my list this week. I had them last week at number 2 as well.
I have the Carolina Hurricanes at number 2 this week at 33, 10, and 7 on the season. Still leading the Central Division. Absolutely phenomenal year continues for Carolina. No, I mean, I don't have much to say about them other than they're still playing great hockey, and no complaints from me. The only reason they're not at number 1 is because of the team that I have at number 1.
Well, that would be a good reason why.
being absolutely on fire right now and deserving of the number 1 spot, is I think they have the most wins in the league now. They've ripped all these off.
Okay, I get you. I hear you. I'm with you. But the main reason why I had Vegas at number 2 and why I have Carolina at number 1 is because Carolina has more points. Okay, so that's the only reason why I have Carolina ahead of Vegas this week.
Yep.
Okay. Last week, my number 1 team was Colorado because they had come back from COVID and won those 2 games and were still looking really good. Okay. Even though Grubauer wasn't in and everything else like that. So my number 1 team this week is Carolina because of they have more points than Vegas. But I would have to say that, you know what, it's either going to be Vegas and Carolina or Colorado and maybe Tampa Bay as the cup, I think. I mean, one of those 4 teams is going to go, I think, no matter what. So
Yeah, I would think one of those 4 would be in the finals for sure.
yeah,
Maybe both of them, depending on how
maybe.
the seeding works out and stuff. But
Exactly. So who do
Vegas
you
is
have?
my one team.
Yeah,
Vegas is
yeah.
my number one team. I mean, there was nowhere else for me to put them. I mean,
Right.
35, 11, and 2,
Yeah.
10 wins in a row, absolutely ripping through opponents. And they weren't playing the toughest schedule until Wednesday night's game against Colorado. And then I really looked at that game hard and was like, if Vegas wins this game, and especially if they handily win this game, Vegas is the best team in the league right now if they handily beat Colorado. And they did that. And they went out and they played extremely well. And they took it to the Avalanche for most of that game and were clearly the better team. And at that point, I go, all right, that's it. This Vegas right now is the best team in the NHL. And that's why I have them at number 1, because as much as I love the way that Carolina's played this season, they haven't ripped off 10 in a row, and they haven't climbed the standings the way Vegas has. And Vegas is at 35 wins already, which is absolutely nuts, and only have 11 regulation losses. So I put them at number 1 this week, and we'll see if they can keep it going for another week, as they haven't lost since, had to be like the first week of April.
Yeah.
That they
So
haven't
now-
lost since. It's absolutely unbelievable.
So now it's amazing. Last week you had Carolina at number 1,
Yep.
and you had Vegas at number 2.
Now that
And-
they flip-flopped.
And now this week they flip-flop, and I have them flip-flopped.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had Vegas I still had Vegas at number 2, but I had Colorado at number 1, and I had Carolina at number 3.
Yep.
So I put them ahead. But well, there you have it, folks. There's our top shelf power rankings.
Yes.
John's list starts number 1, Vegas, number 2, Carolina, number 3, Tampa Bay, number 4, Colorado, and number 5, the Washington Capitals. My list starts off with Carolina as number 1, Vegas Golden Knights as number 2, Florida number 3, Tampa Bay number 4, and the Washington Capitals at number 5. So there you go.
There was our top shelf power rankings, and now we'll be moving on to best game of the past week. This was real easy for me after streaming this game. And you have another great one as well. So we're going to talk.
No, really, I don't. Nope.
Well, it's a
Oh, wait, yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do. It's a different game.
It's a different
Same
game,
teams, different game. They've played some awesome games against each other this past week. It's where we look back on the past week of games and pick out which ones we think were the best. And Steele, if you want to go first. We have the same teams, just different nights, because they've played 2 ridiculous games against each other this week. You can start it off, Steele.
All right. So because we're both talking about the same teams here, St. Louis, this was just in Minnesota.
Yep.
And this was just last night.
Yeah, Steele's was last night. Mine was from Wednesday.
Well, that was the game that we
streamed
right?
on Wednesday. Yeah.
We knew that was going to be a contender when we were doing the game.
Oh, the second that game ended, I was like, "That's my game of the week."
Yeah.
For this
All right.
week.
See, I knew it, so that's why I was like, all right, I wasn't going to touch that game, but they played again last night, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was just all right. I'll pick this one. So it was Minnesota 5 or Minnesota 4, St. Louis 5. Okay. And this one was an overtime game where St. Louis pretty much dominated the score sheet. Minnesota had more shots on goal. And then basically in the third period, Minnesota just basically cranked off 4 goals unanswered to tie the game late in the third.
Yep.
Okay. And then Minnesota just sat back for the last like 5 or 6 seconds and let the clock tick away to go into overtime.
Yep.
But this game, the game that we streamed, it was, you could tell when one team was playing a little better than the next team. But this one wasn't like that. This one was, St. Louis was the better team at the beginning, and Minnesota was the team that caught up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it was amazing to see them come back. They did manage to steal a point out of it, but St. Louis came back, scored the goal there in overtime. It was there was some chippiness. There was, I mean, it was like watching. It was a little bit better version of the game that we did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it wasn't quite the same where the Blues were down. This one where the Blues were up. So Minnesota was down. It was a little different story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
Minnesota tried to do this to the Blues, what the Blues did to them the night before.
and they almost made it.
Yeah.
Except the overtime goal was like, okay.
Yeah, so my game was from the night before on Wednesday against, again, St. Louis and Minnesota. And this one was interesting. There was a lot of big hits. Had a real playoff feel to it. Minnesota took a 3-1 lead into the third period, and I thought that was it. But you guys know how I love comebacks, and St. Louis pulled one off in this one.
Yes,
they were down
did.
3-1 in the third, come all the way back. They tie it up at 3-3. We think that the game's going to overtime. And then with like 25 seconds left or something like that, it was under 30 seconds to go, St. Louis scores the game-winning goal and takes a 4-3 regulation win right out from under the Minnesota Wild. And it was a massive comeback. It was a great game to watch. It was a great game to call. Really, really fun one. And again, I love
Agreed.
comebacks. It was a huge comeback for the Blues in a game that they really needed to win as well.
Exactly.
For their playoff chances. So that was my best game of the week. The same teams just the night before. They played back-to-back nights, and they both were incredibly good games, and that is great to see.
And they did the same thing because Minnesota pulled the goalie.
Yep.
In the last 40 some odd seconds of the game is when they scored their tying goal.
Yep.
Because they pulled the goalie.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So they did the exact opposite the exact next night. It was like, that's why I was like, all right, I'll pick this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because this game was just as exciting to watch as the game that we called. You know what I mean? And that's cool that we grabbed two different games, but both the same teams.
Yeah, because they were incredible games for sure. So
they were.
Those were your best games of the past week, and now it is time to look at some individual players and how they've done over the past week. 3 stars of the week coming up. This is always a fun segment. For the sake of time, we'll just go through our list 3, 2, 1, talk about each player in the week that they had. And Steele, if you would like to kick us off here.
Sure thing. You got it. We talked about him a little bit earlier, thinking that he was going to be the favorite for the Vezina Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
My 3rd star of the week is going to be Andrei Vasilevsky. He played 3 games this past week with a .915 save percentage.
Yep.
He does have a 2.33 goals against average, which, but he's got 1 shutout. And your favorite and my favorite, he's got an assist.
Goalie point.
Goalie point.
Let's go.
And this is not his first one. I believe he's got 3 points on the year.
Yeah, he moves the puck, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all day for that, man. Andrei Vasilevsky, had to give him the 3rd star on that one. So for sure. Number 2 star is a player that I have to say I've been very impressed with this year. We've seen him not make it 1-time awesome play, but make it a 2-time awesome play. And he has very much stepped it up this week. 4 games played. I'm talking about Jonathan Huberdeau from the Florida Panthers. And we're talking about that serious no-look spinorama pass.
Oh, yeah.
That he's done twice now this year. That's almost... That rivals that lacrosse goal. I would think.
Oh, yeah. The lacrosse goal is awesome, but the spinorama pass that Huberdeau has been pulling off is absolutely incredible to watch. And the wildest thing about that for me is that it's tape to tape every time.
And it's no look.
Like, he literally just spins it and puts it perfectly. I can't pass that well when there's no pressure. I have all the time in the world, and I literally can look and stare the guy down and pass to them. And I can't even put it tape to tape as well as Huberdeau does when he's literally not looking and spinning around on his skates. It is absolutely an unbelievable pass.
Somebody asked me earlier in a show that I was doing with Perlo on the NHL Perlo Wisdom Show that he does every week from 3 to 5. And they said, who's your favorite player right now? And I went, gosh, man, I don't really have a favorite player right now, but if I had to pick one guy, it would be this guy, Huberdeau, because of that no-look spinorama pass now that he's done twice that were perfect tape-to-tape passes and perfect for assists for goals. So, yeah, he's my number 2 star. He's got 4 games played, though. 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points this week. He's a +6, so he's getting it done. Power play goal, overtime goal, and a game-winning goal. Okay? So, all kudos to Mr. Huberdeau. My number 1 star this week is Ryan O'Reilly for the St. Louis Blues. Come on now. St. Louis has been playing amazing. They have been on fire. They have been lighting up Minnesota for multiple goals. Ryan O'Reilly, 4 games played, 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. He's a +3. He was really stepping it up. It was funny. We were talking about him on our call. That we was like, man, we haven't called O'Reilly's name, and then bang.
Yeah, right at the end. Yep.
Right at the end, and then and then he played really well the other night too. So 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. He's a +3. He has a power play goal, an overtime winning goal, and a game winning goal, all on 21 minutes of ice time. And get this, this cat has a 55.6 shooting percentage.
That's a great week.
That is a serious week. That means every other shot that he shoots goes in the net.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely not going to keep that up over the course of a whole season.
No.
No, that's insane.
But that number just jumped off the page at me, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's really getting it done, man. So that's my 3 stars of the week. Star number 3 is Andrei Vasilevsky. 2nd star, Jonathan Huberdeau. And number 1 star is Ryan O'Reilly. So, my man John, who are your 3 stars of the week?
Yeah, so I don't have a goalie on the list this week because none of the goalie numbers jumped out all that much to me. Everyone's goals against was over 2, so I was like, all right, maybe not the week for a goalie. So I wanted to get someone on the list that you really wouldn't expect to be on a list like this and getting a lot of attention. Mackenzie Wieger, defenseman from the Florida Panthers. And we talk about the season that Florida's having and how good they've been. Well, Mackenzie Wieger has had a great season, and he has had one heck of a week this past week. 4 games played. He has 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points in 4 games and a +5 rating as a defenseman. Almost 2 points a game as a defenseman over the course of this past week. He's really, really stepped up in the absence of Aaron Ekblad, who we know is out for the season with a broken leg. Florida needed, him to be a top guy on that D core, and that's why they brought him back and re-signed him, and he has absolutely stepped up to the plate and hit a home run. And he's had a great season this year. He's had a great week, and I think he deserves some recognition. 7 points in 4 games, while also being a +5, getting it done at both ends of the ice.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's great. I love that we always try to highlight those players that you don't normally see that aren't, those household names like Mackenzie Wieger, like Jonathan Huberdeau. You know what I mean? We try to bring those other players to light. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So who is your number 2 star?
Sebastian Ajo from the Carolina Hurricanes.
Nice.
4 games played, 1 goal. Okay. 7 assists for 8 points, a +3 rating, and his 1 goal that he did score was a game winner for the Canes. But yeah, 7 assists in 4 games, 8 points total, so literally scoring 2 points a game. A +3 rating. Carolina continues to roll along. Ajo is their number 1 center, one of their best players, one of the most underrated players in the NHL, if not the most underrated. And another great week for him down with the Canes. So I wanted to give him some notice here.
For sure.
He's been great. 8 points in 4 games is going to get you on the list most of the time.
I would have to agree.
And number one, well, there was a clear number one, Ryan O'Reilly from the St. Louis Blues. Same as Steele. 4 games played, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. So again, 2 points per game, +3 rating. He had the game-winning goal in overtime. He's playing over 21 minutes a night. O'Reilly had a heck of a week for the Blues in a week where they desperately needed him to.
Exactly.
This was the time for the captain to step up. And O'Reilly absolutely did it for St. Louis, and they are now sitting in very good shape to make the playoffs, whereas there was a lot of questions a week ago as to whether St. Louis would be in or not.
Yeah.
And now, with the help of O'Reilly and some big wins this week, St. Louis is in good shape to be a postseason team in the 4th spot in the West. So your captain for the Blues stepping up when they desperately needed him to. He had a huge week, one of his best of the season in crunch time when they were going for a playoff spot, and he is my number 1 star of the week.
Clutch. Awesome. That's so awesome, man. So there you have it, folks. There was John's 3 stars of the week. Ryan O'Reilly, 1st star. 2nd star, Sebastian Ajo, which I was tossing up between him and Huberdeau, but I went with Huberdeau because I like Huberdeau a little better.
Yep.
And then Mackenzie Wieger is your 3rd star for this week. So there you have it, folks. Our 3 stars of the week.
Yes, it's now time to move on to hot and cold teams. This is always fun. We look at the 3 hottest and then the 3 coldest teams in the NHL right now. And we'll just go 3, 2, 1 through our lists here. Starting with the hottest. We like to be positive first.
Yep.
My number 3 team is the St. Louis Blues. We were just talking about Ryan O'Reilly. 7-3-0 in their last 10, a 4-game winning streak. A lot of that thanks to Ryan O'Reilly and his play this past week. And again, winning games when they desperately needed to get into the playoffs, and they have incredibly boosted their playoff chances now with these last 4
Binnington has also played really well.
And Binnington has really stepped up and won games when they needed him to. So St. Louis is my number 3 hottest team. My number 2 hottest team is the Boston Bruins. They are 8-2-0 in their last 10. They've won their last 2 after dropping a couple of games. And, man, these trade deadline acquisitions certainly have gone really, really well for the Bruins. Taylor Hall is lighting it up.
Yes.
Curtis Lazar has been a fantastic bottom 6 addition, and Mike Riley has been great added into the top 4 of the Bruins decor. So the trade deadline additions are working out. They're 8-2-0 since the trade deadline, which is their last 10 games. They've won 2 in a row. They also had a 6-game win streak in there with a couple of losses in between. But for the most part, they've been playing outstanding, and Boston's my number 2. Leaving number 1, which is very, very obvious, the Vegas Golden Knights, because they are 10-0-0 in their last 10. They are on a 10-game winning streak. They're the only team in the league this year to win 10 straight games at any point. And do I even have to say more than that other than just look at their record and how they're playing? They've won 10 straight games. They're clearly the hottest team in the league. They're looking like the best team in the league right now. And I have Vegas clearly, obviously, at number 1.
The Islanders were 9-0-1.
Yeah, they had a 10-game point streak, and Colorado had 15 straight for points at one point, but they didn't. They had some OT losses in there.
Right, and I believe Montreal did the same thing as well at the beginning of the year, where they had gone like 12 or 13 games without a regulation loss. They were like 9-0-2 or 3 or something like that. So
but nobody's won 10 straight.
10, correct.
And
so
Vegas has now pulled that off.
They have, so that's awesome, and they're now leading their division as well too.
Yes.
So those are your 3 hottest teams.
Yes.
And I'd have to say they are pretty smoking, if you ask me.
Oh, absolutely.
Woo! Hot stuff. All right, here we go. Here's my 3 hottest teams this week, and not going to be anything different with the exception of the 3rd place team.
Yep.
Brace yourself. I'm going to say something really cool here. I have Pittsburgh at number 3 on the hottest teams.
Yep.
They are 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They've only won 1 in a row. They had a loss thrown in there too, but
thanks to the Bruins.
Thanks to the Bruins. But for the most part, Pittsburgh clinched this week. They were leading the division at one point. So I'm really completely and utterly eating crow on the Penguins this year because I completely did not have them even slated to making the playoffs this year. And here they are now probably going to win the division. So I have them at number 3.
Yeah.
That's my only deviation from the list, because I looked at St. Louis too, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I just saw the win 4, and I'm like,
I know,
oh,
I know.
Pittsburgh's played great as well recently too. Like
right.
They're right up there at the top of the East.
It was like
it's like it's so hard to pick, and there's only one spot.
Which one? And then I looked at it and I saw and I went, okay, well, John's got St. Louis, so I'll pick Pittsburgh. I was good.
Yep.
So my next 2 teams are exactly the same as yours. Boston, 8-2-0 in their last 10. That means they've had a pretty good win streak here now since the trade deadline, and I'm going to have to agree with you 100%. I know that we all kind of looked at scratching our heads a little bit on this Taylor Hall deal coming into Boston, but man, it's worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I did not expect him to be this good. I wasn't expecting this. He has been absolutely phenomenal.
And he scored quite a few points and has quite a.
He's got 5 goals.
That's what I mean.
Which he had 2 all year up until coming to Boston, and now he's got 5. And David Krejci has been on fire as well now that Hall is on his side, and I think they're both making each other significantly better players.
It's like he was made to come and play in Boston. Imagine that. Okay. And my number 1 hottest team is obviously the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah. 10-0. Drop the mic.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. 10-0-0. That's good enough for hottest team.
Done. All right, next. All right. With that being said, we have to go to the other side of things, which is obviously the coldest teams in the league. And so, John, you're going to give us your 3 coldest teams that have not played the best in the last 10 games. So, John, why don't you give us your 3 coldest teams for this week?
Number 3, the Vancouver Canucks. Hasn't exactly been... Well, they came back and won their first 2 games, but then since then, not so great. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10. They've lost 3 in a row, and their playoff hopes are getting... I mean, they're already extremely slim, and then they kept losing, and they kept losing some more, and their playoff hopes are pretty much done at this point. So yeah, Vancouver's at number 3 for me with a 3-6-1 record and losing 3 straight, especially at a time where you couldn't afford to lose 3 straight. They're on the cold list for me. Number 2, the Arizona Coyotes. Talk about a team that couldn't afford to lose games. And 2-8-0. 2-8-0 for the Arizona Coyotes in their last 10. They've lost 2 straight, both against the San Jose Sharks, who are below them in the standings, and it's essentially cost Arizona a playoff spot as they were ahead of the Blues. The Blues kept winning, the Coyotes keep losing, and the Blues have passed Arizona, and not only passed them, but put a pretty decent cushion there with games in hand for
3 games.
For the Blues to be pretty much secure in that 4th spot now, and Arizona going to be missing the playoffs. And it doesn't get any more Arizona than this. Just brutal. I mean, the crunch time of the year, you're going for a playoff spot, and you go 2-8. And end up blowing your playoff spot. And it's hilarious because at the trade deadline, they didn't sell because they were in a playoff spot and were trying to make the playoffs this year, and now they're not going to make the playoffs. And it literally doesn't get any more Arizona than this. The dysfunction is unbelievable. The only franchise worse really is probably the Buffalo Sabres. And even they're playing significantly better right now.
Yeah, okay, I'd agree with that.
But as far as dysfunction in a franchise goes, Arizona is right up there, and this is just another example of it. They're number 2 on the list. But number 1 was easy. The Columbus Blue Jackets. Oh my God. I mean, we've talked about them a lot this year. What a disaster.
They talk about dysfunction.
Yeah, what a disaster of a season it's been. And Columbus hasn't been like this in recent history, but this year has just completely fallen apart. They're 1-7-2 in their last 10 games. They've dropped to last place in the Central Division, I believe. It was them and Detroit, kind of like around the same, flip-flopping for dead last. They did win their last game out, but the only thing about that is that it's the only game that they've won in their last 10. So that gets Columbus at the number 1 coldest team spot for me. Only 1 win in 10 games. Just absolutely brutal season.
That's abysmal.
Mercifully coming to a close soon here for the Blue Jackets.
Them, yeah. Now, my coldest teams are, gosh, man, it's like I'm looking at the same list here almost. The only difference is that I have San Jose.
Yeah, they've been really bad too.
Okay, so they actually have less wins than Vancouver, 2-7-1 in their last 10.
They have won their last 2 games though, so shout out them for that.
Okay,
but it was against the Coyotes,
which is not a good thing for the Coyotes because they're number 2 on the list.
Yep,
at 2-8-0, and so yeah. Arizona had their own destiny in their own hands, and all they had to do was win the games.
Yep.
If they were to win the games, then everything else was going to play out where as long as they were to continue to win, they would continue to keep their spot in 4th place. They had it for, a month almost.
Yeah, they had it. I mean? What happened with the Arizona Coyotes is like meeting a girl at the bar and going up and asking for a number, and the Coyotes had the chance to go up there, get her number, and be on a date the next night. But what the Arizona Coyotes did instead was get way too drunk, throw up down the front of their shirts, and then end up not getting a date with this girl because they can't win anything in their franchise's history.
Well, I think that's an analogy for the books right there, folks, because I'll tell you what, I've never heard one like that. So there you go, man. That's from the GOAT. Thank you very much, John, for that. Oh, my gosh. Okay. I can't even I can't even come back to that. What? How about this? How about Columbus Blue Jackets being even worse? Look, this whole team, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a fan of Tortorella at all. I'm not a fan of his message. I'm not a fan of his style. Okay? And it shows in the fact that he's not really able to stay with a team long enough to get any kind of deep success. He had that team in Tampa Bay where he was able to win the cup, but that wasn't a team that he put together, in my opinion. Okay? So I don't know what's going on in Columbus. You can't lose the number of players that they've lost over the last couple of years and not replace them and expect to have a good team. I mean, that's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah, no, and Tortorella is a coach that you have to win early on when he first gets there. For his style, it works for like the first 2 years, and then that is it. And it gets old really, really quick, and the players just tune it out, and the players turn on them, and it ends up being a disaster. If you're gonna win with John Tortorella, it has to be early on in his tenure there. And they obviously had some playoff runs and some playoff upsets where, knocking Tampa out the year that Tampa was one of the greatest teams ever, one of the best regular seasons ever in history. And they come in and sweep them in the first round. And then even last year in the playoffs, not everyone thought Toronto was going to win that qualifying series. And then Columbus comes in and beats Toronto, and Leafs fans were screaming in pain and
they
agony
played
again.
well against Tampa Bay too.
And they played very well against Tampa Bay again. Tampa
They had
obviously
that big
won
long
this
overtime game. They had
the
you know,
5
multiple,
OT game
yeah.
that was unbelievable. I mean, but this was the year where it all fell apart. This was the year where it was, oh no, like Tortorella's done, like the message is over, and I think you're going to see a lot of changes with the Blue Jackets before next season.
I think we're going to see coaching changes, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely.
So there you have it, folks. That was our coldest teams of the week along with our hottest teams.
And that brings us into our final commercial break here. When we come back, we'll be picking games for tomorrow, and there are a lot. So we are going to have to super lightning round it. We'll talk about the best game of the week or the best matchup of the week coming up. And we'll finish it off with Prospect Watch as usual. But first, here's a word from Canine Country Club Resorts. Again, a huge thank you to our sponsor, CCC Resorts. We really appreciate all that they do for us here at Steel Flyers, and can't thank them enough for sponsoring the show, the website, and all of our work here, whether it's not only me, but Steele's, Perlo's, Peyton's, Joe's, everybody here at Steel Flyers. We really appreciate them. So here's a word from Canine Country Club Resorts, and we'll be right back with some game picks after this.
Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. They've taken care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. Both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full-service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
And we are back. Again, a huge thank you to Canine Country Club Resorts, our sponsor, for all of their support. It is time now to go into our game picks for tomorrow's games. And as we talked about earlier, 15 games tomorrow in the NHL this coming Saturday, and a lot of games to pick. So we're going to try and lightning round this as best as we can and go through this quickly because obviously we only got about 10 minutes of the show left. So, Steele, game picks, this is always fun. Are you ready?
I am ready. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to go through the games that we did last week.
No.
I'm just going to give you the record for what we did last week.
Yeah.
Okay? And let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. John, you were... I don't have them for... I'm sorry, I don't have them.
Oh, that's fine. We'll just go into this week.
Yeah, I
think we did pretty decent.
Yeah, I think you were 9-2.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. You were 9-2, and I was 4-7.
Yeah, that sounds familiar because we talked about that when we were streaming on.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had
or
updated
no, maybe it was
these
during
or
the
not.
meeting Monday, but we talked about that at some point because I put my record together with my picks of the week record too.
Okay, so you are 67-55 on the year.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay, and I am 58-64 on the year. Okay. So here we go. So we've got a lot of games. So we're just going to go with the games that are going to be going on this Saturday, the 1st of May already.
Yep.
And game number 1 on the docket is Buffalo versus Boston.
Boston, got to win that game.
Yeah, boy, they really do need to win this game if they want to keep pace and keep rolling and doing what they need to do.
Yep.
Next game is Tampa Bay versus Detroit.
Detroit's given the Lightning trouble in some games, but the Lightning are back on track now. Tampa.
I have to say, I'm going to go with you on that one. I've watched some of those games where Detroit just outplayed Tampa Bay, but it seems like Tampa Bay is kind of clicking again and back to their winning ways here. So I as well am going to go with Tampa Bay. The New York Rangers versus the New York Islanders.
This is such a huge game, especially for the Rangers. The Islanders just beat them 4-0 last night. Islanders again. I just didn't see it from the Rangers last night.
I'm going to have to go with you on this too. I think it means more for the Islanders to win than it does for the Rangers, and therefore I think the Islanders are going to be a little hungrier, and I think Barry Trotz is going to probably have the ye olde whip out for this one. to get these guys to play well and go what they need to do. So I'm going with the Islanders on this one as well. The don't care game, New Jersey Devils versus Philadelphia Flyers.
Flip a coin, Philly.
Oh, hey, guess what? I'm going to go with Philly on this one too. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Even though it's more than likely going to be New Jersey because it seems like New Jersey has Philadelphia's number this year. Yeah. Go figure. Okay. Here's the game that's is the exact opposite of this one. This is a big time who cares about this game. Pittsburgh versus Washington.
I wish I knew if Washington was going to get some of those guys back. You know, if Carlson was going to play or if Ovechkin was going to play or not. It was still close without them. It went to overtime last night.
I know.
I'm going to say Caps in this one. I think they split the series. Caps in this one.
Because I'm not sure if they're back, I'm going to pick Pittsburgh.
All right. Makes sense.
Okay. Just because I'm not sure if they're going to be back. If I knew for a fact that they would be back, then I would pick Washington.
Yeah.
But without knowing that for a fact, I have to go with Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Okay. Columbus Blue Jackets versus Carolina Hurricanes.
Carolina.
Hey, all right. I don't even have to say anything, Carolina. Ottawa Senators versus Montreal Canadiens.
Ottawa.
Ooh.
Sens have given the Canadiens a lot of trouble this year. Ottawa.
All right, I'm going to go with Ottawa, too.
Oh. We both on the Sens train. Now
I can't.
Now they're going to lose 5-1.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Every time I pick. No, that's why.
No,
I'm
it's
not
that both of us picked. They're going to lose now, so we're both wrong.
And we've only deviated on one so far. We've deviated.
Yeah.
Okay. Vancouver versus Toronto.
Toronto, better team.
This one's not even a question, really. It's okay. San Jose versus Colorado.
Colorado, great team to get back on track against.
I would have to agree with you on that one 100%. Perfect opportunity. And I do believe that Grubauer and Rantanen will be back for those games or for that game. So that's why I'm going with Colorado for sure on that one. Even if they weren't, I would still be picking Colorado.
Yep.
St. Louis versus Minnesota. Here we go.
This is so tough, but I feel like Minnesota has to win at least one of the games in the set. And St. Louis has already won 2. So I'm going to take the Wild in this one. They're going to win at least once.
Okay. I'm not, because St. Louis actually has the season series so far, and this is going to be matchup number 6.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have one more after this.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm picking St. Louis because they've won the last 2.
All right.
Or they've won the last 2 and in dramatic fashion.
Yes.
Okay. So Florida versus Chicago is the next one.
Florida. They have a chance to stamp out the Hawks here, and I think they do.
I agree. And, man, Chicago just dropped off.
Yeah. That's not been a good second half of the season.
So I guess it really is a rebuilding year then.
Yeah, it ended up being, yeah.
All right. Okay. Dallas versus Nashville.
Well, this is the ultimate coin flip game. Nashville.
I'll go Dallas.
That's the ultimate coin flip game, and it might decide who gets into the playoffs and who doesn't.
Which is why I'm going to pick the exact opposite, because Dallas needs it, Nashville needs it, both of them need it.
Yep.
So I'll go Dallas, you go Nashville. Cool. Vegas Golden Knights versus Arizona.
Vegas.
Really? I was going to go with Arizona. Phil Kessel's going to have a hat trick. Yeah, right.
Puke shirt can stay at the bottom of the standings.
All right.
I'm so done with the Coyotes.
I'm with you. LA Kings versus Anaheim.
LA.
Yeah. Just because not time for Anaheim yet, but your time is coming. Hang tight.
Yeah.
Calgary and Edmonton. This is the final battle of Alberta.
Final battle of Alberta. Calgary just won it. They won last game. I'm gonna say Edmonton takes this one.
I have to agree with you on that. I like Edmonton. Yeah, I like Edmonton in that one. Well, there you have it, folks. There's our picks. We lightning round that so fast, so there you go.
Yeah, we'll see how we do.
I can't wait to see how great you do. How bad I do. How great you do. Anyway, so that brings us to our games of the week.
Yep.
And John, how about if you go with your games of the week? These are the best games that we feel, the upcoming games from Saturday through Thursday, that we feel that you should be tuning into, because we will be.
Yeah, this is going to be a great series. Washington Capitals against the New York Rangers. They play twice this week, on Monday and again on Wednesday. I'll be streaming the game on Wednesday. Shout out. Capitals really have a chance to just straight up end the Rangers season here.
Yep.
If the Caps win both of these games, I think that would be pretty much it for New York. So,
I'd have to agree.
This is a massive series. Rival teams, obviously, Washington and New York. And 2 huge matchups where the Capitals are going for the division lead and the Rangers are trying to somehow pull into a playoff spot. But the Caps, again, have a chance to end the New York Rangers season with these 2 games if they can win both of them. So I'm going to definitely be excited to see how those turn out, and that is my best matchup of this week.
Well, I can see why it's your best matchup of this week, because you're really rooting for Washington to take care of the Rangers for you.
Very much so.
So that Boston doesn't have to worry about them anymore.
Absolutely.
I see how you work. I get it. I get it, right? Okay, come on.
Yep.
All right, man. Those are going to be some exciting games. That's for sure. Zibanejad had a hat trick here just the other night. So New York has been gunning and playing hard and trying, and so you know what I mean. Those are going to be some good games
for sure.
My my game of the week is going to be the 6th round tomorrow of the Minnesota versus St. Louis matchup.
Yeah.
Okay. Round 6 of the series for these 2 teams. So far, St. Louis has pretty much dominated Minnesota throughout the season series this year. And the last 2 games have been done in dramatic fashion. Even though St. Louis had a bit of a meltdown there where Minnesota was able to come back and score 4 unanswered, but they did that the previous night against Minnesota. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, all right, well, they've been doing it in dramatic fashion, but they've been doing it. O'Reilly has stepped up and has played very well. So I'm looking for this to be my game of the week right here to watch this game, and then the Rangers and the Washington game. I'd be watching those too.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that Minnesota and St. Louis have gone the last couple games, you can't argue with that. That the round 3 of this little set here seems like it's going to be absolutely ridiculous once again.
I think their last game isn't until like one of the last games of the season.
Makeup games, yeah.
It is. Yeah, it is. So it's one of the last games of the season. So that's why this game here I think is a little bit important. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so those are our best games of the week to watch this coming week in the NHL. That now brings us to our final segment, Prospect Watch, as always, where we like to look ahead to the future of the NHL and draw some attention to some players who are not quite there yet, but will certainly be making an impact in the years to come. And Steele, if you want to lead us off, who is your prospect watch for this week?
You got it. This was a guy that we, when we did our NHL draft show, we talked a lot about this player based off of some of the things that we felt were going to be some issues with this player. He was able to fall to the Washington Capitals, and we're talking about Hendrix
Lapierre.
And he had some concussion issues going into the draft, okay, based off of what he did in the lower leagues and everything like that previously. But I'll tell you what, this 19-year-old kid, 6 foot, 180 pounds, a center, shooting left, was the Capitals' 22nd overall pick last year, has been playing very well in the Q. This past year in the Q, he's played 21 games. He has 8 goals and 23 assists for 31 points. He is a +8 player. And he's going to get bigger. He's only 19. He's 6 foot and 180 pounds. He plays phenomenal. I mean, this guy had a lot of hype coming into the draft. He is definitely worth the hype because this guy just has played phenomenal down in the queue.
Yeah, Hendrix Lapierre would have been easily a top 15 pick, maybe even a top 10 pick had it not been for the concussion issues.
Agreed.
His health caused him to drop a little bit in the draft. He went all the way down to Washington at 22. But Washington is getting a potentially top 10 talent here at number 22. And he's an incredible playmaker, an incredible passer. The only real question here is physically and health-wise, is he going to hold up? Or are we going to have another situation where his head injuries kind of derail his career, somewhat like we've seen with Nolan Patrick? So That's the question here.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
hopefully he's able to stay healthy because he is an incredibly good playmaker and will be for a long time in the NHL if his concussion history does not become a long-term problem.
Agreed. And he hasn't missed any time
this season.
This season at all.
That's a great sign.
So that's a great sign. Exactly. You know what I mean? So that's good to see that he hasn't missed any time. So, all right, John, who is your prospect watch for this week's show?
Yeah, my prospect watch for this week is another player that was taken in this past draft in 2020. It is Dawson Mercer, who is a 19-year-old right winger drafted 18th overall in the first round, just a few picks before Hendrix Lapierre, by the New Jersey Devils in the 2020 draft. He played for Team Canada at the World Juniors this past December, and in 7 games played, he had 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points, and a +7 rating. So a quality performance in the World Juniors. And this season in the Quebec Major Junior League, so playing in the Q, in 23 games in the regular season, he had 19 goals, 17 assists for 36 points, and was a +15 in the Q as a 19-year-old this year. 19 goals in 23 games. And now in the playoffs, his team has played 3 playoff games so far. They swept their first-round opponent 3-0. And in those 3 games, he had 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points and a +4 rating. So he's over 2 points a game in the playoffs. And their playoffs are still going on, so he will have time to add to that going forward. And he's a winger. He's a goal scorer. Obviously, he can play, make, and pass the puck as well, but he's definitely a guy that can put the puck in the net. And those 19 goals in 23 games certainly jumps out to me as a guy that the New Jersey Devils are going to love having on the wing, probably with Jack Hughes or maybe Nico Hischier, but definitely one of those two in the near future.
Either one of those two.
Yeah, either one. Dawson Mercer is going to be a heck of a player for the Devils, and I don't think he's that far away.
Agreed. This was actually this was one of the players I was kind of hoping that maybe a certain team in the Keystone State was going to select because of this particular type of offensive giftedness as well. But, man, I'll tell you what, New Jersey is going to have a pretty stacked team with the number of draft picks that they have, their number 1 draft picks that they have that are on the team, and they just seem to draft better and better every year.
Yeah, Tom Fitzgerald is great at drafting, and don't forget they also have Alexander Holtz, who they took 7th overall, so that's another scoring winger coming into this New Jersey lineup to go on the wings of either Hughes or Hischier, so New Jersey's not quite there yet, but boy, are they building a team that looks like it. 3 years from now is really going to be a team to reckon with in the Eastern Conference of the NHL, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
All right, so that was Prospect Watch, and that brings us to the end of episode 18 here. Once again, joined by Steele. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure, and what another great show in the books as the NHL season rolls along.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the games coming up tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the games coming up this week. I'm also looking forward to the next show next week and all the great things that you're going to do this week with calling the games. Looking forward to all the great shows that the Steel Flyers All Sports Network puts out. Hockey Writers Inc., NHL Pearl of Wisdom, Sports Fanatic News, Off the Wall Hockey Show, all kinds of great content. Check us out on the web, www.steelflyers.com. Speaking of which, the website is going through some changes right now, and you're going to see a little bit of some updates. We've broken it down to each league now, so where you can click on the NFL, the NHL, the MLB, or the NBA, select that league. There'll be a homepage there for that league, and then you'll see your favorite teams across the top, the logo, and then you'll be able to click on that logo and be able to see content for each one of those teams. Yeah. So that's what we're building towards right now. That's what you're going to see on the website when you go check it out. So please go check out the website. On the website, you can also find John from Off the Wall Hockey. You can also find all of our other great shows and content on the website. So check it out, www.steelflyers.com.
Yes, absolutely. And this show is part of the Steel Flyers All Sports Network. It's a hockey show for hockey fans, off the wall hockey show. This was episode 18. Thank you guys all so much for watching and listening. Really, really appreciate it. Of course, we would not be here without all of you in the audience. And we really, really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And we will be back next week for episode 19. We'll be 1 week closer to the NHL playoffs, as well as getting down towards the end of the regular season and starting to figure out who's going to be in the playoffs, who's not, and where those teams are going to finish. As
I'm excited.
We're getting down towards the end here. So again, thank you guys all so much. We'll see you next week for episode 19. And with that, we are going to say goodbye. Hope you have a great night and talk to you all soon.